if we had actually stopped recording
Yeah.
and just talking and, whatever, catching up. And you mentioned a period in your life that was really, really tough. And to be honest with you, it really struck me because it was very tough for you.
Yes.
For our listeners, tell me what was going on. What was taking place in your life
Well,
at that point?
I was kind of in between jobs in racing and was having trouble with the marriage. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize I was having trouble with the marriage. Evidently she was having trouble with the marriage, but it's strange. A man, you need to have a purpose in life. You need to have a reason to get up every morning. And if you've got a job, if things aren't going well at home, you get up and you look forward to going to the job and everything, and you get through that. If things aren't going well at the job, then you come home and you got the wife, you got the family. So you need something good in your life. And at the time, the marriage was going downhill, didn't have a job, everything was falling down around me, and she all of a sudden came in and announced that she was leaving. She left, just like that. I noticed I had won races and stuff. Won races with Benny Parsons, and that's about the time I had met her. But it was strange because we won the race at Atlanta, and we left out and stopped at the Red Lobster coming up from the racetrack right there, carried the trophy in and set it in the middle of the table and ate dinner at the Red Lobster right there. You get home, and all the guys' wives meet you at the shop. And I didn't have anybody. So they all meet, and I just kind of sitting there by myself, and I drive home, walk in the house, it's dark, quiet, turn on the TV, sit there, by then it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're sitting there, won the race today. Guess I'll watch another TV show. And there was winning the race is fun, but when there's nobody to share it with, it's almost like a tree falling in the forest. There's nobody to hear it. Did it really happen? It was the same kind of a thing. So I realized then that relationships were something else because you work your whole life. And I'd been to Victory Circle with other drivers. This is the first one that I was crew chief for. It was my first, big win right there. And then it was like, it seemed like no big deal. Is this all it is? Right there. So she and I ended up getting married and stuff. And I got down the road, got in between jobs and stuff, and life just got tough right there. Like I said, I didn't realize how bad it was, and she just announced she was leaving. So without having a wife or a job or having anything right there to hold on to, I went to those dark places that you do, and a lot of people don't realize, it happens at night. And most of your suicide attempts, things like that, are late in the hours because when the sun comes up, it's a pretty day the next day, and you got hope. I mean, it's like when you don't have a job, and you say, I'll find me a job today. But at the end of the day, you're like, man, I still don't have a job, and you go back into that dark hole again at the nighttime right there. So I tried a suicide attempt right then, and then probably this was like October, and then I tried it again in November
of
again.
91?
I might have been 90, I think it was.
Yeah.
And because I think I got saved in 91 right there. Then I did it again right there at Christmas. Right there, right around Christmas, I did it again. And the last time, one of the guys in racing, a couple of guys in racing lived in my neighborhood. Gary Brooks, a good friend, lived across the street from me over there, just maybe 2 houses across the street from me over there. And Johnny Bruce, JB, that worked for U.S. Tobacco, that I worked with when I was at Benny Parsons, he lived around the corner. And I had gone in the house, and I took 2 bottles of sleeping pills, and somebody gave me a bottle of Captain Morgan's rum, and I washed it down with that and went to bed with the intent of never waking up. And the next morning, I guess Gary had seen my truck in the driveway, and everybody knew I was in bad shape, mentally in bad state. So Gary knocked on the door, no answer. So he called JB, and he said, "I think we need to get him out of there." So they called the police, and they came. When they broke the door down, they said that I walked around the corner stark naked with the eyes rolled back in my head. Said all you could see was the whites of your eyes. And I don't remember any of it. But I guess it was all the pills and stuff. It had such an effect on me, and they took me to the hospital. I was there for, must have been like Sunday, and I think they said I was in a coma until Tuesday afternoon. And when I came to, that was the first I knew it. They told me about how Gary and them and how everybody had found me right then. But it didn't mean a whole lot to you or anything like that. And a couple weeks later at the hospital is when Phil Parsons called me and offered me the job of crew chief in his bush team. And so I went over there and did that. But the first day at work, I told Phil, I said, look, Phil, I said, man, I need to talk to somebody. I said, I ain't doing real well. I said, I'm not so stupid. I said, I've tried 3 times. The first time I wanted to kill myself. The second time I was crying out for help. And the third time I was trying to kill myself. I said, so sooner or later I'm going to succeed. I'm not so stupid. I'll get it right sooner or later. And he told me, he said, I know who you need to talk to. And he put me in touch with Max Hylton over at Motor Racing Outreach, which did all the chapel services at the racetrack and everything. But to me, that stuff was for people that were weak and couldn't handle it before. That's why I always thought about it. I wasn't against it, wasn't for it. I had no feelings about it. And anyway, I talked to Max, and he invited me to the retreat that happened about a week later. At the end of the season, they'd go to Hilton Head, and Bobby Hillen let me go down a room with him. His wife stayed home, so I rode down and stayed with him. And the first day there, I heard the speakers, and I'm telling you, I tell people, I said, racers, we don't believe anything unless we see it. I mean, somebody can come to you and said, hey, you try this spoiler on your car, this rear spoiler, and it's going to pick you up 0.2 of a second. Like, I'll log that back, but I'm not going to believe it until I try it and see it. And I tell them, I said, that first day, they had some of the best speakers down there, and I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, I didn't see God. I said, I didn't talk to him, nothing like that. But I heard these guys, and the feeling, I said, I came here not only wanting to die, but trying to die, crawling around on the floor trying to die. And I left here jumping up and down with joy.
Huh.
I mean, it was like you threw a switch like that. And I got saved, actually. Ron Pegram and his wife, Jackie, that worked with MRO, they were all sitting at a table. They called me in the motel room that night, and they said, look, man, I said, I wish my wife could see this. I wish she could get down and hear this. So he called. They offered to fly her down, and she says, nope, not interested. So he said, well, I know she's not coming down, but how do you like that? I said, man, this is great. Best thing ever happened to me in my life. He said, how'd you like to feel like this all the time? I said, put me in. So we prayed the prayer right there. I gave my life to Christ right there in the motel room.
I did not know
Yeah,
this.
sure did. And it's not a magic pill. I mean, it doesn't all of a sudden all your life is rosy, but what it does is it gives you the strength and tools to get through the other things.
Right.
I mean, there were some rough times, but I'm telling you, God and the Holy Spirit have their hand in your life. When I was working for Phil, there'd still be some tough times. I remember one night I crouched down behind the race car. I'd stay at work because I had no place to go, nothing to go home to. It said to be 10:30 at night. I remember especially one night I'm kneeled down behind the race car, just crying. He said, God, this is tough and everything. I don't care anymore. It's hard. And all of a sudden the phone would ring, 10:30 at night, and it'd be Lake Speed.
Huh.
He'd say, Cliff, I don't know what you got going on, but God told me to call you.
Wow.
And it lifts you right back up. And that happened several times. I'd say 2 or 3 times that happened. Somebody, right when I was down, somebody would call. And it really ended up being, one of the greatest things in my life to get to know God. Before that, I wasn't against God, but somebody asked me one time, they said, you believe in God? I said, well, not really. I said, I don't have any feelings one way or the other. They said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, how do you feel about the price of tomatoes over in Somalia? Same way with me. I was racing.
Yeah.
I was busy racing. People don't realize how involved you got in racing back then. You were running full-time all the time. There wasn't as many people in the shop. You were working late at night and stuff. When I was working over at Copenhagen team, I went to the bank one day. And I asked the lady, I said, what's the date of today? I said, what's the date? She goes, 23rd. I said, no, what's the date? She says, Monday. I said, Lee, what month is this? I didn't know. I didn't have a clue what month it is. You know, when you're racing that hard, instead of you don't know who the governor is, you don't know who the president is, you don't know who anybody is.
Yeah.
You're just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you know where you're going to be next week. You're going to be at the racetrack. And all of y'all know that as you're going along, I mean, everything you relate said, when did you get married? Well, let's see. It was we got married in between the break between Daytona, and hey, that everything relates to between this week and that week of what racetrack it is. And that's
done
what
that.
you don't know what month it was. They said, well, was it the fall race? It was a spring race, so it must have been May. You know, that's the only way you know.